Hey all you people, what's going on? Today we're going to take a closer look at a third generation Toyota Camry. And this one is in the rare wagon configuration. First, I'm going to do a full review of the car, then we'll take it on the road, do a 0 to 60, and finally we're going to talk about its reliability and how it's been over the years. This is a 30-year-old car, so there's going to be some really interesting things that pop up. So sit back, grab a snack, and let's get nerdy. The third gen Camry is arguably one of the biggest reasons why Toyota catapulted in popularity in the 1990s. The brand was creating a name for itself by doubling down on research and development, as well as quality control.
I love what you do for me, Toyota.
Their focus was on building a loyal fan base, and they understood the power that word of mouth testimonies had, as evident in their ad campaigns from back then.
I'm so excited.
My Toyota truck, I love it.
I love it.
I love it.
I really love it.
Their mission was to build nearly indestructible vehicles that would prove themselves over time. So did the third gen Camry prove itself over time? Well, let's start by looking at how its design has aged over the past 30 or so years. This particular Camry represents the very tail end of the golden age of station wagons, and pretty much everything about it gives you a blast of nostalgia. We've got gold on gold on gold on gold on tan, which is a staple of the era. We've got lots of tire sidewall, something that you never see these days on cars. And look at these beautiful windows. This is borderline a fishbowl by today's standards. All right, so sitting in the Camry, I'm gonna be honest, it's kind of hard to review older cars like this because of how different the technology is nowadays compared to what it was. But it seems like when this came out, it was actually optioned out pretty well. It has power windows, and this was a time when manual windows were still a thing. It also has optional power mirrors, a power driver's seat, a sunroof, and this came with the optional JBL sound system, which was pretty good when it came out. Although, fast forward 30 years later and not so good anymore, so it's pretty common for people to upgrade their head units to Bluetooth, upgrade the speakers, just to make it a little bit more modern. And by today's standards, this is a very analog experience. And it's kind of hard to describe, but there's something so calming about it, you know? You don't have screens in your face, you don't have the car's electronics driving itself for you. The materials all seem really high quality, even the plastics, and everything is still well assembled even after 30 long years on the road. The seats, I mean, yeah, they have 30 years of ass in them, but like, look, the fabric is still in really good shape. Nothing's torn except for, well, this here. There's a couple things around the car that are falling apart a little bit, but still not bad for the age. All right, but since this is a family hauler, the back seats are kind of important too. Seats are pretty comfortable and supportive. Let's try out the middle seat. All right, I can actually sit here with some headroom. This is good, not bad. Yeah, a ton of room in here. This is great. All right, 80s and 90s kids, hold on to your butts because we're about to get really nostalgic. Now, this isn't just a trunk. Shaboom. Oh. All right. Oh, come on. All right, trunk struts are not that great anymore. Stay open, please. All right, relax. Just flip this open and you have extra seating for your least favorite children. Does anyone else remember riding in the back of these when they were a kid and just waving at all the cars behind them? Thought you were so cool, didn't you? This is also an official door with a lock and even a child protector lock right here so you can make sure your kids can't get out of the trunk. What's cool is that they don't just have lap belts on these. These are actual 3-point seat belts. Although a rear end collision would be a little different facing backwards. Can you imagine if they still had these seats in cars today? How many kids would just be turned into like paste from all the distracted drivers rear ending other cars?
Mom, I see cars back here. They're getting really close. They're not stopping.
Oh God, that's scary. Yeah, at that point, this would become more of a hearse than a wagon. But that brings us to the most important part of the video. It may sleep a couple bodies as a hearse, but will it sleep a not so handy car guide, the standard unit of measurement? Shaboom. Shaboom. All right, this is what a wagon is all about. Dude, you could have slumber parties back here. All right, so I'm 6 feet tall and I fit perfectly in here. You could fit a twin air mattress back here, no problem, and it'd be perfect for stealth camping or, like I said, slumber parties. What is that saying? If the wagons are rocking? Either way, I'm sold. So how is the third gen Camry on the road? Well, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Camrys have always been known for their comfortable ride rather than their driving dynamics. This one is a little different because it's on coilover suspension and it has an exhaust, as you can probably hear. So it's a little bouncy and a little bit louder. But the thick sidewall of the tires adds to the overall softness of the suspension and steering. You can turn the steering wheel like a quarter turn and the front end just kind of wobbles a little bit. Just spinning the tires. Now again, the whole driving experience, it feels really analog, and I think that's partly due to the instant throttle response from the mechanical throttle. There's literally a cable that runs from the gas pedal to the throttle body on the engine. You don't find that in cars nowadays, which are all drive-by-wire, which means there's no physical connection. So in a weird way, this old Camry actually feels kind of quick and a little bit more engaging to drive. So it might feel quick because it responds instantly, but how quick is it really? Let's do a 0 to 60 test. So these Camrys actually had 3 different engine options. The smallest one was a 2.2 liter 4-cylinder engine, which made 125 blistering horsepower. They said that it did the 0 to 60 in around 10.5 seconds with the automatic transmission. But in this, we have the powerhouse 3-liter V6 engine, which made around 188 horsepower and did the 0 to 60 in about 8 seconds. So let's put that to the test. All right, not bad. All things considered, 261,000 miles on this car. Crappy tires, pretty wet outside. I'm really impressed with how smooth the power delivery is from this engine, how smooth the transmission shifts for its age. It's incredible. All right, so let's get into the juicy stuff before I freeze to death here. How reliable are these legendary cars? Well, for starters, I just want to mention that every engine option you can get with one of these Camrys has a timing belt that needs to be changed every 60 to 90,000 miles. Now, this isn't an issue. This is just considered maintenance, but it's really important to know. All right, let's talk about the 2.2 liter 4-cylinder engine. This is one of those engines that just really proved Toyota was serious about their brand's reputation and longevity. But of course, this engine can experience some aging-related issues. It's common for these engines to have oil leaks from all the places that they have gaskets that can dry out. But another common place to have an oil leak is actually at the rear main seal, which is a pain to change because it means dropping the transmission. Other than that, a common place to leak oil is at the oil pump. And these can actually look like they're leaking from the crank seals. Some of these gasket leaks can also be caused by a failing PCV valve because crankcase pressure could build up and kind of blow out those seals. Another problem is that occasionally the EGR and the IAC valve could build up gunk, causing a rough idle or even stalling, but luckily these are pretty cheap and easy to replace. These issues could be caused by sludge buildup in the engine, which these engines are known for, especially if the oil wasn't changed at regular intervals. All right, now onto the V6 engines. This had 2 V6 options. The earlier Camrys came with the 3VZ FE, which had an iron block and an aluminum head. This engine actually came in a couple other cars from Toyota, including their 4x4s. And to be honest, the engine was a bit of a pig. It was really durable, but it wasn't very fuel efficient or refined. The biggest issue with these engines was that they were prone to head gasket failure. Some people say that was because of a weak head gasket design. Other people say that it was from improper torquing of the head bolts from the factory. I don't know. It's probably a combo of the two. But honestly, if you have one of these engines, you probably would have already had that issue by now if it were gonna happen. And the facelifted Camrys, like this one, came with the 1MZ FE. These were aluminum block and aluminum head, and they were also very, very reliable, just like their predecessor. They're also more efficient and more refined, so they suited this car application better than Toyota's pickup trucks. Really, the only big issue with these was oil sludge buildup. And this was due to a few reasons. One, narrow oil passageways that could gunk up like a southerner's arteries. Two, an inefficient or clogged PCV, which would send moisture into the oil. And three, there was the cylinder head design, which, as you can see in this photo here, has some low points where oil can kind of just sit and get cooked by the heat of the engine. As for the Toyota drivetrain, well, just like everything else in 90s Toyota, it was very overbuilt. Ball joints, CV axles, wheel bearings, everything held up over time. Of course, though, with enough time, anything can and will degrade. The transmission options were also really robust with these. Whether you get the 4-speed automatic or the manual transmission with a 4-cylinder, there really aren't a ton of issues that pop up. Really, the only reason why the automatic transmissions fail is if they weren't maintained and had the fluid changed. But mechanical components aside, what is the reliability like on the rest of the car? Oops. Fixed it. When you start it up, you actually get this sound in the back of the radio antenna trying to go up, but it's broken. But allegedly it still works. You just have to manually pull this up. And shaboom, you got radio. Oh no, it's so greasy. Well, one issue, especially here up in the Rust Belt, is body rot. Now, this car is actually from Florida, so the rot isn't too bad, but the common areas to see rot is the fenders, on the lower doors where moisture can get trapped, and on the rear quarter panels. If you have one of these, it's probably a good idea to consider using some sort of rust prevention spray like fluid film to help prevent against the body rot. These Camrys can also develop some electrical issues, especially in the doors, causing issues with the window switches and cabin lights. The owner recently actually had to do some repair on the wiring inside the front doors.
No door handle, no problem. Door handle.
We're fortunate enough to have the owner with us today. He's actually been riding in the back for quite some time now. Hey, Christian? Christian?
What? That's all good back here, yeah. So the Camry, lots of memories in this car. It's been an amazing vehicle. Now, obviously, I've had to do some things. This car is quite old, and parts, as good as they are, don't last forever. Now, the repairs that I've done are fairly basic, in my opinion. I've replaced the exhaust, which does rust out over time, the suspension on it, so I did the struts, I've done control arms, the coolant flushes, a radiator, power steering hose that was leaking, valve cover gaskets. I find those to be basic repairs that you do to pretty much any vehicle that you keep for a long time. I also did some bigger maintenance like timing belts, spark plugs, but that's also part of regular maintenance on these. The belts, you can't just ignore it or you're just gonna destroy your engine. And oil changes, very frequent oil changes, every 3,000 miles, 4,000 tops. You gotta keep these engines clean. That is the only way they're gonna last forever because they do gunk up with oil often.
So it sounds like you've done a lot of repairs related to the age of the car. Is there anything else that the car needs, like in its current state?
Well, as you can see, there's a couple warning lights on the dash. It needs an ABS sensor, needs an O2 sensor. Again, things that after 30 years or almost 30 years are somewhat to be expected. Other than that, cosmetic things, yeah, it's got some battle scars, but I'm gonna leave those because first of all, I don't have the equipment to make it perfect. Second of all, I don't mind those being there. It's part of the vehicle. It makes for some good conversation if anybody asks about them.
Okay, Christian, so do you think this is the best generation Camry?
It's hard to pinpoint just this or one Camry being the best one, because they all had huge pros and cons. You go a generation earlier, on the second gen, they had four-wheel drive. Imagine having four-wheel drive in one of these, especially up north in the winter.
That would be awesome, by the way.
It would. You could lift it, but then you have the fourth gen, which was another iconic car. You see still hundreds of thousands of those on the road. Of course, they dropped the wagon after this one, but that doesn't mean the sedans aren't good. So it's really hard to narrow it down to just one generation. This one's, yeah, it's old and outdated, so it's not gonna meet 2025 safety standards, but it's still built like a tank.
In your own words, what do you think makes Toyota and the Camry in general so reliable?
Honestly, it comes down to over-engineering, overbuilding. Now, yeah, there was a supercharger offered for this engine, which you could put in the Camry. In the Toyota Sienna, imagine that. And the over-engineering aspect of it is what makes these last so long. For me, the best things about this Camry wagon are its practicality, durability.
It's a little bouncy. I can feel my boobs going up and down.
Yeah, coilovers change things. Durability, versatility, practicality, and, well, for me, just because I like wagons, it's a wagon, so I love the way it looks. It's not perfect, but to me, that's what makes it special. And this is proof that a car doesn't need to be flashy to be amazing.
All right, so go check out Christian's channel for more Camry content. I'll link it in the description below. Alrighty, so to sum up everything we just talked about, it doesn't matter how reliable a car is, how well it's designed or built, nothing can truly fight the test of time. There's going to be things that wear out on every single car, and we can actually see those throughout patterns across different car brands. The rock-solid powertrain options and simple design make this easy to maintain as time goes on. And that is really what paved the success for the Camry going forward. And it's incredible to think that people are still out there daily driving these 30-plus-year-old vehicles. That says something about how these were made. So how can I rank the third-generation Camry on my list of reliability? This is gonna go right at the top of my list. Look at that, it beats out the 8th gen Camry. Alrighty guys, thank you so much for watching. And if you have any experience with third generation Camrys, feel free to leave your comments below. On that note, take care now, bye-bye then.